I want to ask you something that might be hard to answer honestly. What's the last time you genuinely enjoyed your teenager's company? Not managed them, not corrected them, not worried about them, enjoyed them. When was the last time you laughed together? Had a conversation that didn't turn into a disagreement? Spent time together and left feeling closer instead of exhausted? If that memory is recent, that's wonderful because you are building something healthy. And today's video will help you build it even more intentional. But if that memory feels distant, if it's been months since you felt truly connected to your teenager, if conversations feel guarded or one wrong word away from an argument, I want you to hear something. This is not how it has to stay, and it's not too late to change it. Because despite what it may feel like right now, constant conflict is not your relationship. It is a pattern, and patterns can change. In today's video, I'm going to show you the exact three-stage path from constant conflict to genuine connection. Not a quick fix, not a parenting hack, a process, a sequence. The same sequence that I use inside the emotionally intelligent teen method to help parents stop arguing with their teenagers and start building stronger relationships with them. Because the goal is not simply fewer arguments. The goal is a relationship you actually enjoy being in and one your teenager enjoys too. One of the biggest mistakes parents make is believing that conflict is the problem. Conflict is not the problem. Conflict is a symptom of the problem. The real problem is the pattern underneath it. Here's what often happens. A parent becomes frustrated. A teenager becomes defensive. The defensiveness triggers more frustration. The frustration creates more defensiveness. And before long, both people are expecting conflict before the conversation even begins. The parent braces. The teen senses the bracing. The teenager reacts. The parent reacts to the reaction. And suddenly, everyone is having the same argument they've already had 100 times, just with different details. The argument might be about grades, chores, a phone, a curfew, an attitude. Beneath, but underneath it is usually something deeper, a need, a fear, a misunderstanding, a pattern neither person recognizes that they are participating in. And when that pattern repeats often enough, conflict stops being something that occasionally happens. It becomes the climate the relationship lives in. When that happens, every interaction feels loading. Every conversation carries the weight of previous arguments. Every peaceful moment feels temporary, and both people become hyper vigilant, watching, waiting, bracing. This is why so many parents find themselves searching. Why does my teenager argue with me? How do I stop fighting with my teenager? How do I improve my relationship with my teen? The answer is not found in winning more arguments. The answer is found in changing the pattern. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Let me tell you about a mom I worked with whose relationship with her 17-year-old daughter had deteriorated to the point where they could barely be in the same room without it becoming an argument. She told me, "We haven't had a conversation that didn't end badly in over a year." Then she said something I'll never forget. "I can't remember the last time we laughed together." And she wasn't exaggerating. She had mentally replayed the previous 12 months. Not one interaction felt genuinely good. Not one. She came to me convinced the relationship was broken, not strained, but broken. And she wanted to know if it was fixable. What we discovered was that neither of them was the problem. The pattern was. Her daughter had become hypervigilant and defensive. This mom's nervous system had become conditioned to expect conflict before interactions even began. And because she expected conflict, she unintentionally communicated that expectation through her body language, tone, and energy. Her daughter sensed it immediately and reacted accordingly. Both of them were trying. Both of them were trapped inside a cycle neither could see clearly. Once we identified the pattern, we focused on three specific changes. First, we changed the way the mom was communicating before conversations even started. Second, we changed the timing of her repair conversation. And third, we improved the quality of her listening around one topic her daughter actually cared about, a band she loved that this mom knew absolutely nothing about. 8 weeks later, something. Her daughter asked if she wanted to watch a concert recording together. For 2 hours, they sat together. Her daughter explained the music. This mom asked some questions. She listened, really listened. There was no lecture, no correction, no agenda. They didn't solve the previous year's conflict. They didn't process every hurt feeling. They didn't have a movie style breakthrough. They simply spent 2 hours together and it didn't become an argument. That was the beginning. And the beginning is everything because the path from conflict to connection rarely starts with a dramatic breakthrough. It usually starts with one moment that feels different, one interaction that creates hope, one experience that reminds both people we can be different than this. So let me walk you through the three-stage path from consistent conflict to connection, the path from arguing to understanding, the path from tension to trust, the path from surviving your teenager to enjoying them again. These stages build on each other. Do not skip stage one to get to stage three. I promise you, the shortcut is much longer. Most parenting conflict is not actually about what it appears to be. The argument about the phone usually is not about the phone. The argument about the homework is not about the homework. And the argument about the attitude is not about the attitude. Those are presenting triggers. Underneath them are the real drivers: unmet needs, unprocessed fears, old relationship patterns, past experiences, and the hypervigilance it develops when a relationship has felt strained for a long time. This is where emotionally intelligent parenting begins, not with changing your teenager, with understanding what is actually happening beneath the surface. Most parents focus on entirely what their teenager is doing wrong. Stage one asks a different question: what pattern are we both participating in that keeps creating the same outcome? That question changes everything because once you understand the real pattern, you stop fighting symptoms and start addressing causes. Diagnostic question in stage one is simple. If I look over the last 5 conflicts, what were they really about? Not the topic, the need underneath it, the fear underneath it, the pattern underneath it. When you can answer that honestly, you are no longer guessing. You can see clearly, and real problems have real solutions. Before we move to stage two, I want to ask you something. If you are already recognizing your relationship in what I've described, if you can feel what the real driver of your conflict might be, drop the word understanding in the comment because awareness is where change begins. And if you want help identifying the patterns that are keeping your family stuck, that's exactly what we do inside the Emotionally Intelligent Team. Not generic parenting advice, not a one size fits all solutions, real support, real structure specific to your teenager and your family. The link to book a free discovery call is in the descriptions. Come talk to me. Don't wait until things get harder. Let's start building better now. Once you understand what actually is driving the conflict, you can begin doing something incredibly powerful. You can interrupt the pattern. And this is where many parents get stuck because they try to interrupt the pattern during the argument. But by then, it's usually too late. The emotions are already activated, the nervous systems are already dysregulated, and the pattern is already running. Stage two is about interrupting the pattern before it even becomes the interaction, before the argument starts, before the reaction happens, before the cycle takes over. And that work begins with you, not because everything is your responsibility, but because you are the one watching this video. You are the one seeking change. And emotionally intelligent parenting always starts with the person who is willing to become more aware. One of the most important things I teach parents is this: your teenager's behavior is information, not an emergency. Let me say that again. Your teenager's behavior is information, not an emergency. The eye roll, the attitude, the silence, the pushback, the sarcasm. None of those automatically require an immediate reaction. But when conflict has become the pattern, parents often respond as though every trigger requires an immediate response. And this is where the cycle keeps repeating. Emotionally intelligent parenting is not about controlling your reactions perfectly. It's about creating enough space between the trigger and the response to choose your response intentionally. That space is where transformation happens. That space is where emotional intelligence lives. That space is where connection becomes possible. The work of stage two happens before the difficult moment. It happens in your preparation, in your awareness, in your regulation, in your ability to notice what's happening inside you before responding to what's happening inside your teenager. Think about the most common trigger in your relationship right now, the, that reliably starts the conflict. Maybe it's homework, maybe it's chores, curfew, attitude, technology, whatever it is. Identify it clearly. Then create one specific interruption practice. Not a vague intention like, I'll try to stay calm. A specific practice, like when my teen rolls their eyes, I'll take one breath before responding. When my teenager gets defensive, I will ask a question before making a statement. When I feel myself getting frustrated, I will lower my voice instead of raising it. Specific practices work because they give your brain something concrete to do. Vague intentions disappear the moment emotions rise. Specific practices hold. And every time you interrupt the pattern, even slightly, you create the possibility for a different outcome. Not perfection, but progress. An instant transformation, a new direction. Because every healthier relationship begins with a different pattern. Now, let's talk about something many parents miss. Reducing conflict is not the goal. It is part of the goal, but it is not the whole goal. Because a relationship with less conflict and no connection is still not the relationship that you want. The absence of bad does not automatically create the presence of good. This is why stage three matters so much. Stage three is about intentionally building the relationship you actually want with your teenager, not just reducing arguments, creating connection, building trust, developing emotional safety, creating moments both of you enjoy. Because when parents imagine a healthier relationship with their teen, they are rarely imagining fewer arguments. They are imagining something much deeper: more trust, more laughter, more conversations, more honesty, more closeness, more moments where their teenager chooses connection because connection feels good. This is what we are working toward. This is where the micro moments become powerful. The 5-minute conversation in the car, the question you ask instead of the lecture you give, the shared experience, the inside joke, the repair after a disagreement, the moment you chose clarity, the moment you chose curiosity over criticism. These moments seem small, but relationships are built from small moments, repeated consistently over time. Trust is not built in one grand gesture. Trust is built in thousands of ordinary interactions. The same is true for connection. And the same is true for emotionally intelligent families. Many parents tell me they want a stronger relationship with their teenager. Then I ask, what are you intentionally doing to build one? And they often realize they have been spending all their energy trying to stop the bad without intentionally creating the good. But connection requires intention. Connection requires consistency. Connection requires structure. And structure is what turns good intentions into real experiences. This is why, inside the emotionally intelligent teen method, we don't just focus on reducing conflict, we focus on creating connection systematically, intentionally, in a way that works for your specific teenager and your specific family. Because every family is different, but every healthy relationship requires the same thing: intentional investment. I want to say something that many parents need to hear. A better relationship with your teenager does not begin when your teenager changes. It begins when the pattern changes. Many parents spend years waiting for their teenager to become more respectful, more mature, more responsible, more cooperative. And while growth absolutely matters, connection usually improves long before behavior does. But connection is built through consistency, not perfection. The reality is that many teenagers become more cooperative after they begin feeling safer, more open after they begin feeling understood, more connected after they begin feeling. In other words, the relationship often improves before the behavior improves. And that can be difficult for parents to hear because it means that you need to invest in connection before you see the outcome you're hoping for. But that investment is worth it because behavior management might create compliance, connection creates influence, and influence lasts far longer than control ever will. This is why the path from conflict to connection matters so much. You are not simply trying to get through the teenage years, you are building a relationship that will exist long the teenage years are over. And that relationship is well worth investing in. Let's bring this together. The path from constant conflict to genuine connection moves through 3 stages. Stage 1, the awareness stage, the stage where you stop focusing on the argument and start understanding the pattern underneath of them. Stage 2, the interruption stage, the stage where you create enough space between trigger and response to choose a different way forward. And stage 3, the connection stage. This stage is where you intentionally create trust, warmth, safety, closeness you actually want. Interruption, connection, conflict, pattern, connection. This is the journey. And underneath all 3 stages is one central truth that I want you to remember. Conflict is a pattern. Patterns can be interrupted. And the relationship on the other side of the interruption is worth every bit of effort that it takes to build. I've seen parents go from walking on eggshells around their teenage to enjoying them again. I have seen relationships move from constant tension to meaningful connection. I have seen families stop surviving and start thriving. Not because they got lucky, because they learned a different pattern. And you can too. I want to come back to the question I asked at the beginning. When was the last time you genuinely enjoyed your teenager's company? Now, I want you to imagine something. Not a huge breakthrough, not a dramatic movie scene, not some perfect family moment, just a normal evening, a regular Tuesday. You are both home, you are both relaxed. Your teenager walks in the room and starts talking about something they care about. Maybe it's music, maybe it's a friend or a game. Maybe it's something that happened at school. And instead of bracing for conflict, you find yourself listening. Instead of preparing you find yourself curious. Instead of wondering when the conversation will go sideways, you realize it hasn't. And your teenager is still talking. Then something happens. They make you laugh. Or they show you something that they're really excited about. Or they sit beside your bed longer than they usually do. And in that moment, you realize this is what I was working toward. Not the absence of conflict, the presence of connection. Not simply through an argument, a relationship that feels good to be in, a relationship built on trust, a relationship where both of you can be yourselves, a relationship where your teenager feels safe enough to come to you instead of avoiding you. That moment is closer than you think. And every step that you take toward understanding, interpretation, and connection is helping build it, even now, even today. If your relationship with your teenager has been difficult lately, I want to tell you something. The relationship is not broken, it is strained, and strained relationships can heal. The arguments are not proof that you have failed. The tension is not proof that it is too late. The distance is not proof that connection is gone forever. It simply means that there's work to do, and work can be done. One conversation at a time, one interaction at a time, one repair at a time, one new pattern at a time. Your teenager still needs you, even when they act like they don't, and you still want to connect with them. That matters. In fact, that matters more than you know, because willingness is where healing begins. And if you're still here watching this video, you've already demonstrated that willingness. That is enough to start from. If you've listened to these 3 stages and thought, this is exactly what my family needs, I want to invite you to the emotionally intelligent teen method because this is the work that we do together. We identify the patterns that create the conflict. We learn how to interrupt the patterns before they take over. And we intentionally build the trust, connection, and emotional safety that healing parent teen relationships require. Not generic parenting advice, not one size fits all solution. A framework tailored to your teenager, your family, your challenges, and your goals. And if you've been trying to improve this relationship on your own and nothing seems to be changing, this does not mean it's impossible. It may simply mean you need a structure that helps you see what you cannot on your own. Come tell me about your teenager. Tell me about your relationship. Tell me about what you want it to become. And let's build a plan together that is designed specifically for your family. Because your family deserves more than surviving. You deserve connection. And if you're not ready to take that step, that's okay. Start with bridging the teen gap. Everything we talked about today lives in that book and so much more. If you want practical tools, real examples, and a roadmap for building a stronger relationship with your teenager, this is the perfect place to start. You'll find the link in the description. Take the first steps. Let yourself begin. If this video helped you see your relationship differently, if it helped you identify a pattern you hadn't noticed, if it gave you hope that things can get better, give it a like. Share it with another parent who needs encouragement. And subscribe for new videos every Thursday. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me, what stage are you in right now? Stage 1, Stage 2, or Stage 3? Or simply type understanding if you're beginning to see what's really happening underneath the argument. I read every comment, and your response helps me to create content that supports you exactly where you are. Next Thursday, we're continuing the conversation about emotionally intelligent parenting and building stronger relationships with our teenagers because the teenage years don't have to be something you simply survive. They can be some of the most meaningful years of your relationship. Not perfect, not conflict free, but connected, trusting, real. Until then, remember this: the goal is not to win more arguments, the goal is to become more connected. And every healthy parent teen relationship is built one interaction at a time. Take one step this week, one conversation, one interruption, and one moment of clarity, and see what happens. I'll see you guys in the next video.